Thanks for checking out another episode of the Jobology podcast. Today, my guest is a music producer, DJ, and does some other jobs within the music industry as well. He's going to talk to us all about what his tour schedule's like and what specialty food item he's had on his rider for years now. So, without much further ado, Jaysyx. I just want to say thank you for being our guest today, Jordan, and thanks for taking time out of your day to do this for me.
Yeah, no problem, man. I'm stoked. Stoked to do this.
So my first question that I always kind of like to ask is, how do you describe what you do? So like I would say, oh yeah, my friend Jordan, he's a DJ, but is there something like, how would you describe what you do if somebody said, hey, what do you do for a living?
I usually just tell people I'm a music producer.
Okay.
There's people say everything. I mean, usually if you say DJ, they just think you're a DJ. If you say
Hmm.
producer, they just think you're a music producer. So
Gotcha.
you get longer. They'll ask you, "Oh, do you DJ too?" And like, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So music producer would be more of like the all encompassing term, sort of. And then like that would include like DJ, or is that like its own specific job title itself, I guess?
Kind of all falls under the same umbrella. I mean,
Okay.
you'll have some of my buddies just say they're an artist, they're a music artist. So
Okay.
like you get different answers from different people, but I just say music producer.
Okay. And then your specific music name, DJ name, however you want to describe that, how would we be able to find you if we were going to look you up?
My name, I go by Jaysyx,
Hmm.
Jaysyx. Um, Instagram's just at Jaysyx.
Hmm.
Twitter's at Jaysyx. Facebook's the official Jaysyx. Spotify, Apple Music's just Jaysyx.
Okay.
I think that's it. Oh, SoundCloud is just Jaysyx.
Okay. Awesome. And usually we like to go kind of like follow the path. So to start, why get into music in the first place?
I had quit playing college baseball my like junior year,
Oh, nice.
and I didn't really know what to do.
Hmm.
Like I was kind of stuck between stay in school, go get a job. What do you want? Like, and my cousin was like an open format DJ at some of the clubs downtown in San Diego. So
Okay.
he started taking me to some of the clubs, and I was like, "Yeah, this is kind of cool."
Hmm.
And at the time, I was 21, and I just liked like the crowd reaction. I liked how you control the party, and
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah, and I fell in love with it. And I got my first, little mixer.
Mhm.
Started doing it, and within like 2 months, I had my first gig, and it just took off from there. And I just kept going. 4 years later, I started producing, and now I get to tour. So
That's fun. That's got to be a fun like journey. Obvious. I mean, you start out kind of small, and it's just like little by incremental, kind of like, I mean, what I'm hoping to get with the podcast eventually is, incremental little, and then, eventually a pop or something like that.
yeah, it's there's a lot of times where I was like, yeah, I'm done with this. Like I
Mhm.
can't do it. It was just you're not gaining traction. You're not blowing up how you think you're gonna blow up. But I kept with it. I had friends that backed me. My family backed me really
Mhm.
hard. We worked
Nice.
hard to do this, and I caught a couple breaks and got a good agent. I have a great manager, and I have a really good team by my side. So it's a blessing. It's hard, but it's
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, starting anything yourself seems like it would be, its own kind of obstacles, hoops you got to jump through, and then at the end of it, it falls on you. If it doesn't end up working, um, we get the uh the why. I mean, that makes sense. If hey, it started working out, I really enjoyed it. But I guess I'm always fascinated with how people get their job. So DJ seems like it might be its own, like completely different than any other job in the world of how you would get it. But like how do you do it? Do you just start producing music and then hope somebody catches on? Do you like just hit the social media scene? Like what do you kind of do?
there's a lot of kids. Like when I started, I met up and linked up with a couple guys that were like booking for clubs and bars and stuff downtown.
Okay. It's like a promoter.
Yeah, yeah. It
Okay.
was he was like it was head of a promotions team, and they got me my first few gigs, and then I stuck with them, and that's how I kind of became a resident at Basement.
Okay.
he started working for Basement,
Hmm.
and then I played there every month. Um, and then it kind of grew from there. And then production, like when you start producing, is when you start really gaining fans. I mean, if I was just a DJ and I just stayed as a DJ in San Diego, I would have had my hometown fans, like people here that knew me,
Right.
but I wouldn't really have anything outside of San Diego, outside of California.
Hmm.
Um, Me producing and putting music out got me fans all over the US, Mexico, parts of Europe.
Yeah. Eventually, the world.
Yeah, yeah, it's a trip.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of kids like nowadays that are focusing on the production aspect
Okay.
and trying to blow up that way. So if you get a lot of fans via your production, you can always learn how to DJ.
Gotcha. Is that the route you would go now if you were starting over, let's say, or starting today? You'd be like, I'm gonna go producer first, and then I'll figure
Yeah,
out the.
it's not easier by any means. Production is not an easy task. DJ
Mm-mm.
is like if you can learn to DJ at least decent pretty quickly.
Gotcha. But mixing a song.
Yeah, being able to stay in key, being able to play your own music and have
Hmm.
that that crowd be hyped about it,
Hmm.
that sets people apart instead of just playing, I could play all these big headliners tracks all night, like a whole hour set of just their music, and it'll be a dope set. But that's not the end goal. The end goal is to, like, right now when I play a set, 65% of the set is my music.
Oh, that's awesome. That's got to be almost like a. I don't know if better is the right term, but that kind of feels like it would be a better feeling of like, oh wow, the crowd's like popping off to this song that everyone pops up. But then when the crowd pops off to one of your songs, that's got to be like, oh, this feels a little different. Things. This is pretty cool.
It is, and like sometimes I'll like bring in an intro that everybody knows from like a song that people know, let's say from Excision or whoever,
Hmm.
but then I'll edit it to where it drops one of my new tracks, and then you start hearing the crowd like, oh,
The
because they don't.
switch up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So I use a lot of stuff like that just to keep it going, but yeah, it's definitely a way better feeling when it's your own music.
I could imagine. Um, oh, there we go again. I'm trying to stop saying
I do it all the time.
How do you get an agent? Do they find you? Do you find them? How does that work? I've always been fascinated by that too.
It's dicey. Like when I say
Mhm.
that, it's tough. It's one of my best friends, autocorrect. Me and Otto have been through this industry together almost from the beginning, and he got one with Prism, and I had talked to him. I'm like, yo, what do I got to do?
Mhm.
He was like, I don't know. They found me. Just keep grinding, keep grinding, keep grinding. Like I'll put in a good word. That was, and then it was like a year and a half, 2 years later, we played. I headlined a show in Utah
Mhm.
with a couple other Prism artists. That's the agency I'm with.
Okay.
With, um, and I guess they had said something to them, or one of the agents was there. But it was like 2 days later, my agent Brian had called me. He was like, "Yo, we keep hearing about you. We saw videos of your last couple shows.
Nice.
Your music. Like, we want to represent you." So we had to go through everything. I had to, I have my pops look over all the contracts and everything, just because I know he knows, he doesn't want me to get screwed. So
No. There's easy ways to do that in contracts.
in this industry, there's so many contracts. It's like a weekly occurrence.
Well, and trying to read things can be almost like a different language at times. You're reading like legalese. Like, what is this person even trying to say?
Yeah, it's a trip. So I ended up signing with them. I've been with them for about a year and a half now, and I love it. They take care of me. They make sure everything's taken care of, and if they think something's not a good fit, they'll let me know. Like, hey, this
Gotcha.
promoter is sketchy. Like, we're not gonna. I know you want to play the city, or I know you want to go here, but this promoter's not it. Like, we'll find somebody else. And I was like, cool. So it's definitely good to have one
Hmm.
from an aspect of when you start rising in rank. There's a lot to do. You're always producing. You're always making merch. You're doing social
Hmm.
media 24/7, and so having somebody going out and get bookings for you, and making sure that they're going to pay your rate, they're going to get your flight, they're going to do all this, and having that aspect taken care of, it's nice. But it's also it kind of sucks because they get 20%.
Yeah, you got to pay them. Yeah.
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 So it's like, damn, if I didn't have an agent, maybe I could have got that booking and got all the money, but at the same time, maybe I wouldn't have had that booking. So
Or maybe like a number of bookings down the line. You know, what I mean, there might be access that they can have that you might not have to at the moment. Gotcha.
but it's also you got to wait for them.
Mm-hmm.
It's agents come to you, managers you can find.
Mm-hmm.
Um, agents definitely, the agencies come to you. It's just you can go to them, send them an email, hey, I'm looking for one, but most of the time you're not going to hear back, or they're going to give you some copy and paste answer.
Or like a runaround. Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. When you eventually do get an agent and like management team and all that, you kind of alluded to it, but that's more just to free up your time. That's more to like I can delegate these kind of things out now. I don't have to worry about, finding the venue I'm playing at. I can worry about now making my music.
Yeah, and they know what to look for in contracts and stuff like that. Like they know where you know somebody might slip in something
Mm-hmm.
to try to make a quick buck off you or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
They go through that quickly. I mean, I still at times have my pops look at it, but now I've got a really good relationship with my agent, so
Yeah.
he takes care of all of it, and it makes that aspect of life easier. That
Mm-hmm.
it's less headache than the rest of the industry, because the rest of the industry can be tough.
Gotcha. So when I was thinking about our interview and kind of preparing for it, I started thinking it's almost like you have two jobs when you're on tour and when you're off tour, to me, like in my head. I mean, I don't know. Again, that's why I do these things. I have no idea. So I just try and find out from the people that do it. But it seemed like, oh, there must be like, okay, when I'm on tour, this is my schedule. And when I'm off tour, this is my schedule, because it's two completely different things. Am I far off on that? Or am I kind of right?
Kind of. A lot of people think um, when you're on tour, you're like on a bus
Mm-hmm.
for, let's say, 4 months,
Mm-hmm.
and you're gone, and then 4 months later you come home and you hit all these cities, and that's not necessarily how tour is. Some are like the big names. That's what they do. But they're also selling out stadiums. They're selling out, all this. Tour for guys kind of where I'm at is you're gone every weekend. So, you fly out on Thursday to say, like, I think towards the end of my buddy Slime's tour, I was on his tour this past couple months.
Mm-hmm.
I was in Florida for 2 days, like Florida Thursday, Florida Friday, Minneapolis Saturday, home Sunday, and then the following weekend I went to Fargo on Friday, Phoenix on Saturday, home Sunday. So tour for us, like we come home, you come home.
Mm-hmm.
You're gone every weekend, and it's tough. Your
Gotcha.
sleep's messed up. You know, um, you're not necessarily producing in those 4 days that you're gone,
Mm-hmm.
and then you come home. All you want to do is relax. So during a tour, you don't necessarily make as much music as you do when you're not. When you're
Gotcha.
not touring, you wake up, you go make music for as long as you want, and get some food, and go back or do whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot different.
Gotcha. So one thing we always like to say when kind of discussing what your day to day is like is that we're kind of trying to look at like an average day to day, which I know for most people, it's kind of tough to narrow down what average day to day would look like. And I know for you that probably is even a little bit more difficult, because there's probably not necessarily an average day, especially if we focus currently right now, if you were on tour. But is there like hey, typically I like to get up at this time, typically, or is it kind of just dependent upon the show, the time you're done? I'm kind of at a loss.
So like one thing, like I mentor a couple kids, a couple younger dudes, and one thing I tell everybody is like until you're making double what all your bills are like a year, do not quit your day job. Like, I still have my day job.
Gotcha.
So, Monday during tour, it's nice because I work for my pops.
Hmm.
So I could be like, yo, I gotta fly out Thursday.
Hmm.
He's cool with it. Like, or I'll take time PTO or whatever.
Right.
But Monday through, let's say I'm not touring, Monday through Friday, I'm up at 5. I'm back home at 3. I'm chilling with family, whatever. And then I'll make music for a couple hours. And sometimes I don't. I'll go 2 weeks without making anything just because I don't I can't think of anything. Everything I'm making is trash, so I take a couple weeks off, and then it's very up and down, very very up and down.
Is there a, I don't know, for lack of a better term, like a pocket sometimes? Like if you just get in like a zone and you're like, oh, I'm crushing this. Like I'm not, leave me alone. I am this, I'm on something right now. I've got something going.
Yeah, I've been like that for like the last, I'd say 3 months.
Okay.
3 4 months. I wrote my whole EP in a matter of like 2 weeks.
Dang. Okay.
Yeah, and then lately I think I've put together like 11 tracks in a matter of 3 or 4 weeks. Like sometimes it just comes to you and you just
Hmm.
keep going and you keep using it, and then next thing you know you wake up and you be like, I don't know how I made it yesterday. Like I can't think of anything.
Like now you're in a slump. It's like,
Yeah,
oh, now I got to get out of the slump. Like, yeah,
it's a trip, and it happens a lot.
that's why. Yeah. Like, I mean, that happens with me too, to where some days I'm like, okay, zoom, zoom. I want to, let me book this person. Let me book. And then other days I'm like, I don't want to hear my voice. So don't even listen to a recording.
Yeah, there's tricks around it. Like I listen, like when I'm not making music, I'm just not. Everything's trash that I'm making. I'll sit and I'll listen to country for a couple of days. I'll listen to jazz. I'll listen to trance. I'll listen to anything other than like dubstep.
Okay. And that's what we kind of glossed over that, but what kind of music do you primarily focus on?
Dubstep. Sometimes it'll be a little bit like trap, but mainly just heavy bass, 150, 145 BPM dubstep. That that hell raising stuff.
Okay. That's cool. Um, so like country jazz, that's like resetting the palette almost. Like, okay, let me get back to roots, start fresh, get something clean going. Okay, now I got a new idea. I'm gonna roll with this.
Yeah, it's a trip. Like I'll hear something in an R&B track or an old rap track, and I'm like, yo, I can sample that, and I'll send it to people.
Okay, so I have actually a completely, that just, I forgot that I've always wondered this. How do you have the rights to do that? Do you just say, like, how does that work? Because I figure, like, do you have to contact the person and go, hey, is it cool if I use this? Or if you're not making money off of it, it's fine. Like, I just don't know, like, the legality, I guess, behind that.
You have to change it. So like, I'll completely I'll make it the voice deeper or
Okay.
whatever it is. If it sounds just like let's say it's a Notorious B.I.G. track and it sounds just like it, yeah, you got to contact Sony or whoever it was. You got to get the rights to it, etc., etc. To
Mm-hmm.
be like, this is how I'm going to use it. Send them how you're using it. They have to approve, blah blah. But if I just have the track downloaded, I throw it in to Ableton, I cut that part out, and then I start messing with it to where it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't sound like exactly like that track, then I'm fine.
Okay. So as long as you change or manipulate it enough to where somebody could be like, oh, that's Jordan's, you know what I mean? Or, oh, that's Jaysyx, you know what I mean? That's different.
Yeah,
That's not that,
different.
it might be inspired by per se, but it's not. Okay. Yeah. Because I always hear stuff on the radio, or especially nowadays, I feel like a lot of newer songs that are coming out are either very close to some older songs. So I'm like, did they get the right, or did they just change it just enough? Yeah.
No, that's usually they got the rights to
Okay.
it. A lot of the samples that I use is like wordplay,
Mm-hmm.
like pre-drop vocals or you know something inside the drop, like it's a quick snippet. Like I used Jesse Pinkman in one of my tracks.
Breaking Bad.
Yeah,
Nice.
so I used that in one of my older tracks and made it just deep enough to where it didn't sound just like Jesse Pinkman.
But if you know, you know. Like,
Exactly.
gotcha. Okay, that's cool. When you're on tour, do you or like so? I can on tour. I was in the vision of the tour bus. The hey, I'm out. You literally nailed it when you were like, people think da da da. I'm like, I'm people. I think that. So okay, so let's say do you fly out the night before a show usually, like a couple days before to get like a vibe for the city? Like what is that?
So it depends. So sometimes I'll be hypothetical here. Let's say I'm getting $1,000 for a show.
Mhm.
Um, Sometimes that promoter will give me 1,300 and be like, "You buy your flight." Sometimes they give me the 1,000 and they buy the flight.
Mhm.
It just depends. And I've had flights that promoters have bought that are red eyes to Philly. Yeah. And I got to
Mm-mm.
Philly at like 9 a.m. Now, granted, that would suck if we didn't have like the hotel and everything. They got there's me and a couple of my other artist buddies, but they got us an Airbnb. We had the keys. We were able to get in, take
Okay.
do whatever.
Yeah, if you get into a city at 9 and then like check in, they're like, sorry, it's not till 3. You're like,
Yeah.
well,
Oh, that's definitely happened. We were in Fargo. My buddy got there before me. It was his tour. And he got there 2 hours before me, and they wouldn't let him check in.
oh,
I got there at like 2:30, and they're like, "Oh yeah, like you're with Cameron, blah blah blah." And I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh, you can call your buddy. Like we can check you guys in." And I was like, "Oh, he's not checked in."
oh
And
no.
I knew he had been there like 2.5 hours before me.
Yeah.
Oh, that sucks. And it
Yeah.
happened. And sometimes, like, where was I going? I was going to. Oh, it was the Fargo show.
Mhm.
I flew into Denver on. I left Thursday. I got to Denver at 10 p.m. I had a flight from Denver to Fargo at 10 a.m. the next day. So I just like kicked it in in the airport, slept, did whatever, got on my flight, played Fargo, and then flew straight from there to Phoenix. But like sometimes it's if I get my own flight, I get it to where like I'll get there a few hours before, so like yeah, I can check out the city. Philly, like I got there hella early, but I have buddies out there, and Philly's a cool city, really cool city.
That's something also I would imagine is like it kind of depends where I'm going. Like if I'm going to Fargo, I mean, if you're listening in Fargo, I'm sure it's a great, excellent place. But if I'm going to Fargo, you might just be, hey, I want to get there and get out. Like, there's not much that I'm going to be checking out. But if you are going to like a New York or a Philly or a Los Angeles, it might be more like oh, hey,
Minneapolis,
there's stuff to do. Yeah,
Minneapolis is one of the coolest cities.
I've been there. I like it. I like Minneapolis a lot, actually.
Skyway Theater was a blast, and like the city itself, like those are some of the nicest people I've ever met in my life.
So, kind of as you said, if you're doing it, you're getting in a day ahead, maybe, or like the morning of. Like,
I'll get it a day of, just a few
okay.
hours. Like I try to get it just in case something gets like delayed. If
Mm-hmm.
I usually don't go on till midnight, so
Okay.
um, or
Oh,
11 early. Yeah,
I know.
that's why
I'm old. I can't
that's
do
what
that.
I'm old, and it's tough. But I won't let like any later than like 7 p.m. Then I can check in. I can sometimes there's meet and greets. Sometimes the promoter just wants to take you to dinner or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like Arizona, they picked me up. I went to this dope little restaurant, played pool, got some food and drinks, and they're like, "Hey, we'll take you, to your hotel." And I was like, "Cool." Went to the hotel, took a cat nap, and then went to the venue.
Yeah.
So it's cool. But if I book it, I get there at like 7. I never know when they book it.
Gotcha. Whatever they tell you.
Yeah,
Have you, or how often does it happen that you wake up in a city or you wake up and you're like, where am I? What city am I in again? Where were we last?
that doesn't necessarily happen.
Okay.
Like there have been, there's times where like promoters, they always want to after party, no, always.
It's
And
like, bro, it's already I can't went on at midnight. What after party are you talking about?
yeah, some of these after parties go to like 5 a.m. and I'm like, yo, I'm 30, like I can't do this. Um, I'll probably depends on the city and how many friends I have there and stuff like that. Like I'll go for a little bit, but most of the time, I'm like, yeah, I'm going back to the hotel,
Mhm.
go catch some sleep. A few I have partied and gotten a little lit and woke up with the cleaning lady like, hey, it's time to check out. And I'm like,
Yeah, it's time to go.
and
Mm.
luckily the cleaning lady came because I would have missed my flights. But um, yeah, sometimes it happens.
Has that ever happened where you missed a flight to a show or something like that?
Not yet. Knock
Oh,
on wood.
oh. I don't know if you can hear it, but I did it on my end too. Um,
Not yet.
okay. Because I imagine that's got to be a whole mess of things where it's like,
Yeah.
hey, man. I mean, sometimes, like, especially nowadays, there's a whole bunch of flights that are going to, you know what I mean? So it might not even be something where it's like, hey, I had nothing to do with this. I'm not a pilot. I can't fly the plane. Like, sorry.
Yeah, no, I've had friends that have missed flights, like
Mm.
shows that I'm on or whatever, and then the whole thing gets restructured and the set times get restructured because they missed their flight, or
Mm-mm.
I have a studio session with one of my buddies when they come home, and they're like, "Yo, I'm still in Florida. Like, I missed my flight. I partied too hard last night." It happens. It definitely happens.
Yeah, it's understandable in the industry. I feel like when you are doing like the studio, like you were just saying, what's like a I mean, I imagine you're like, hey, I got 2 hours in here. We got to stick to like we got a time crunch or time kind of frame now. Okay.
Not at
Yeah.
all. Half the time, like the example, me and my buddy Otto, the first like hour, we're usually just sipping on beers and bowling.
Okay.
And yeah, no, and sometimes we get into the studio and we throw it up and look at it and just dig in. Next, 5 hours have gone by and track's done or whatever. Sometimes we sit there and we only make an intro and it's been 7 hours.
Oh,
It just sometimes some days are different. If there's deadlines, we always hit
mhm,
them. But
gotcha.
if there's no deadline and we're just working to work, you just never know what you get.
Who would put on a deadline? Like your management, like I don't know, or like a label.
Management can, because sometimes, like my manager right now, he wants like 2 tracks out a month minimum.
Okay.
Um, and if I'm not finishing things, I'm not gonna get them out, whether it's a self release or a label release. And then sometimes, like my EP, I sent them 1 track and said, "Yo, I'm gonna have 3 more, kind of like this." Blah blah blah. They're like, "We'll sign your EP right now." I'm like, "You haven't even listened to anything else." They're like, "We like this track."
If you're saying you're gonna do more like that, we will take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're like, "But you have to have all of it done by this time." And I was like, "Cool." And it was like, I think they gave me like 2 months, and I had it done in a week or two. So
Oh,
yeah,
there you go.
2 months. Like, but there's times where I've been pressed up against it and gotten it
like,
in like
oh, we got 2 days left.
2 days, 2 hours.
Ooh,
Like,
damn.
yeah, it can get dicey, but most of the time it's just labels. Labels will give you a deadline. Management can. Your agents
Mhm,
never will. Agents are just there to work for you.
gotcha.
Um, they'll just tell you, "Hey, you know, you're not working hard enough."
Make us more money.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
That's what I figured. You when you're on tour, uh so I'm gonna kind of move into this like next stage of the podcast. I mean, we kind of discussed day to day that there's not really a typical average day to day, and touring's not anything like I thought it was, so that's good. See, now I learned something new. That's the whole point of this. um when i have I have 5 job specific questions that I want to run by you and see, do these even make sense? Do they not? If you're like, hey, this doesn't apply, we can move on, whatever.
Okay.
First question I have is there a Mount Rushmore, so top 4 of artists that we should know besides yourself? I mean, obviously we need to know,
I'm
Jaysyx.
not on that.
No, we definitely do. That's why we do these. That's
Yeah.
why, so we know that we need to follow you, and we need to know you. Is there 4 other artists that you could think of if you were like, hey, go check these people out. They're awesome.
Yeah. Excision. He's a dubstep don. Like he paved a way for a lot of us underground guys. Over the last like 4 years.
Mhm.
I was lucky enough to be on his label, the first release, his first compilation album, and I've released on his label I think 3 or 4 times. There was like 4 or 5 major festivals around the world. Majority of them in the U.S.
That's cool.
But yeah, he that man does a lot for our genre.
Cool.
Subtronics, he's like the king of sound design, and like what a lot of people don't understand is they think we're just plugging in all these sounds. It's like we're actually making them.
Mhm.
We have these programs that we're making these sounds from scratch,
Gotcha.
and the sounds he makes are unreal. That's why he's one of the best in the world. Kind of Zed's Dead. They're a little bit different,
Mhm.
but they've been in the game forever. And then 2 of the homies, ATLiens, they've blown up in the
Nice.
last, like I'd say like 3 years, and they some of us have seen what they look like. They have a full alien mask. They
Okay.
they wear the same thing every show. Hoodie on. The eyes light up. You don't ever hear them talk. when some of us, we've been able to, luckily I've been able to kick it with them in the green room and stuff, but um like if you are not in the industry, you've probably never seen them. And I love it. Like even one of them, their girlfriend, like she doesn't even post anything about the two.
I was gonna say has never seen him.
Right? They're actually engaged, and like anything she posts with him, he has his mask on.
Oh wow.
He doesn't let it slip, like all that. It's a trip, and like I just I envy their work ethic. Like I try to work that hard. They're untouchable. Like they grind and put out music like it's crazy.
That's nice. That there you go. Then that's kind of again, like I always we're here to help each other out.
Yeah.
That's why I like to do this. That's why I like to have on guests that are, small business owners or doing their own thing, stuff like that. If you had a do you have a dream venue that you would like to play?
Skyway Theater was one of them. I got to play it. It was dope.
Where is that at?
Minneapolis.
Oh, sweet.
Exchange LA was another, and I got to play that this year. I want to play not necessarily venues. I'm grinding to play Lost Lands
Okay. Festivals.
Festival, Base Canyon, EDC, and Ultra. Those are the four that I'm hoping to get at least two of those four next year.
Like the white whales. Like those are what
Yeah,
we're gotcha.
yeah. I have a ton of buddies playing Base Canyon and Lost Lands this year, which I'm like super hyped about. Super proud of them.
Nice.
Next year, hopefully, I'll be on those flyers.
Heck yeah. If you so when I came up with this question, the way I kind of thought of it was like if you were playing in a club versus like an amphitheater, like a Red Rocks or like we have like it's not called Coors Amphitheater, but the amphitheater down in San Diego. Does your set change based on like I'm playing a club environment, I'm playing an amphitheater environment, or like does that I don't know, just from like an acoustic standpoint, does it have any?
No, but
Okay.
at the same time, like an intimate venue.
Mm-hmm.
No, not really. Not
Okay.
really. Just it's 100% full bore the whole time.
Nice.
I might throw in like brand new edits if it's a bigger venue like a amphitheater or a festival or something. I might throw edits in with like top 40 tracks that people know, because then you get them singing, do whatever, drop something heavy. But that's the only thing I really change. I stay pretty much the same either way, but I do change up my set. Like if I'm every weekend for like let's say 10 weeks, I won't play the same set for more than 2 weekends.
Gotcha. Okay, so it's your the answer to it is like I always change it. Like you know what I mean? So it's not that something that's always going to be the same so that I need to change. It's like it's always kind of like a live kind of culture almost like it changes and grows as you change
Yeah,
and grow.
songs like of course my music's gonna be in there. I might bring it in different ways,
Hmm,
but the energy, whether it's at a club or it's at a huge venue, the energy
mhm.
is the same.
Gotcha. We kind of mentioned this already, but what is your sleep schedule like on tour?
What sleep?
That's what I was. There you go.
It's tough. Like go to bed at 4:30, 5, wake up at 8, catch another flight, take a nap, go do a meet and greet or eat something, sound check, back to the room to maybe take another hour nap. And then one thing that I like to do, especially if I'm headlining, is to be at the venue maybe a little bit after doors open, because I know when I was an opener, you know, I would have loved to see one of these, bigger names there.
Yeah,
They not even if they didn't say anything to me, like cool, they caught my set, like chill.
they're at least supporting. In
That didn't back then. That really didn't happen all that much. You get a couple guys maybe, but I always try to get there early just to even catch like the last 20 minutes of the opener set, and then I'll go in the green room for a little bit, kick it with the promoters or whatever, and then I'll come out for 30 minutes of the next guy's set, whatever it is. But to see some of them and like interact with them, and I like to do that because nobody did that when I was coming up, really. And so it's always something that I wanted to do if I got the opportunity to come up.
I like that. And if you do, I mean, we kind of, you're like, I don't, like to necessarily party as much as the next DJ, but if you are and you do get hungover and you do have to catch a flight the next day, do you have a hangover cure?
Orange soda.
Orange soda. All right.
Orange soda or just another beer.
Okay. The hair of the dog, that'll work.
Yeah, because I know in like in my tech rider, I get 6 Bud Lights and a bottle of tequila every
Okay.
day.
That's what I was gonna ask too. I Another thing. So my fiance, she's a music manager. So something I always find fascinating is writers. Like what's on the writer? What do people put on there? Like what do people like? What do people want? What can you put? Like, could you get crazy?
So I got my rider is either a 6 pack or a 12 pack. I usually get a 6 pack. Bud Light or Budweiser, a bottle of tequila, and in the parentheses like no Cuervo. I usually get a pretty good tequila. Most actually lately I've been getting Don Julio, which has been nice.
There you go.
I got I get a vape. So when I'm on tour, I love it because these things last me like 5 days, and I get 2 a weekend, and I never have to buy any.
Yeah, it's a constant stream.
Yeah, and then I get the hottest chicken wings of this in the city.
That's on the writer is verbatim hottest chicken wings in the city.
Yep.
All right.
It was for my old manager, who was one of my best friends. We put that on like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, when he was trying to be a manager for me and everything. He actually did really well, but that was the one thing he wanted, and even now I kept it. I'm like, I'm gonna eat them. The hell
That's
with it.
cool.
Yeah.
It's almost like a tradition. You kind of like, I got to stick with it
Yeah.
now at this
There's
point.
been some cities that I had like one. And I'm like, I ain't.
Okay. Would you remember the hottest wing you've ever had?
San Antonio.
I could, yeah, Texas. I was going to guess either somewhere in the South or Texas.
Yeah, San Antonio. Some of them back when my manager was doing it, I wouldn't eat. I would smell them and be like, nah, I'm not eating them.
Yeah, it burns your nose as you're just even.
Be in the bathroom the whole time I'm supposed to be on stage.
Yeah. And hope you guys like this rendition of Stairway to Heaven. I'll be back.
Yeah, there's times like I'm like, maybe after the show, and actually woke up like in the morning with the wings in my room. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm kind of hungry, and forgetting they're hot.
Oh no.
That just ruins my day.
Oh, where you poured that tequila shot and you're like, water, thank. Oh no.
Done that. Done that too. Because there's
brother.
times I've actually done that. I left the bottle in my backpack and tried to go through TSA. Yeah,
Somebody came up on something.
yeah. I was like, yeah. I looked at the guy. I was like, you might as well keep it. It's half a bottle of Don Julio, and he was like, I got to throw it away. I was like, you're lost.
Sorry. So once you're back, like home, I mean, you said you go to the studio, but for that stretch of time, is that weekly, monthly, every other month? When you can fit it in.
Um, it just depends on like the tour we're working on right now. We're trying to shoot for 20 to 30 cities. So if that happens, it's going to be 4 or 5 months, 4 months, whatever. I can't go that long without putting music out. So I have to make myself. I have to discipline and get disciplined down and make myself make some stuff instead of laying on my couch until Thursday comes around. And I'm like, all right, I gotta get you playing.
Hey, that sounds so much nicer.
Yeah, like I'm hoping within the next like year or two, the day job will be gone and it's strict music, and if that comes about, then it's a little bit different because then I can wake up at whatever time and go to the studio. I've also, thought about engineering for rappers because if you can engineer, I have buddies that do it. I mean, you can charge $250 to $700 an hour depending on how good you are.
The hell? Oh my god. I'm in the wrong business.
Yeah, you got to get a clientele, which that's the tough part. But yeah, I've been contemplating maybe doing that eventually, and so and they're on your time. They hit you up, hey, can we get in the studio today? I want to lay down these bars, blah blah blah. And if you're doing something, you're like, nah.
Mhm.
But if you've done, if let's say you're doing, $500 an hour, and you've already done 20 hours in that week, you really don't need to go do more.
Yeah, what's an extra 500 at that point?
Yeah. Yeah. So, but it's tough to get into engineering. I know my buddy, he owns Obsidian Studios out in Philly, and his studio is huge, 2 stories. It's like 7 rooms. I mean, but he engineers all day, all night.
Gotcha.
So, I have him on. He goes by G the Shep. He was on my EP,
Mhm.
and so he does his own thing too. But he engineers, and you know, one of his guys that he engineers for just signed with a subsidiary from Sony
Oh, wow.
yesterday.
Nice.
Like $1 or $2 million contract.
Man, sign here and there you go.
Yeah.
Um, one of the things we kind of glossed over during the day to day that we usually talk about, and I always like to say, if you don't want to talk about it, if you're like, hey, I can't talk about it because maybe you can't, I don't know. Is there like, how does pay work for a DJ? Do they, you know what I mean? Like, is that something where you already have it set out in your contract? I make this much no matter blah blah blah, and then that goes to the agent and to the manager, and then you get it, or do it go to you and then you dole it out? Like, how does this? What
No.
is what's the situation?
So you have a rate, like my rate's my rate, and let's say my agent was like, "Hey, I'm gonna ask these guys for $1,500 for the show."
Mm.
I'm like, "Cool." They might counter. You can go back and forth. Most of the time, they won't.
Mhm.
If they want you, they'll pay. What your rate is. They usually ask, hey, what's Jaysyx's rate? Hey, what's autocorrect's rate? Hey, we have this in our budget. A lot of times for like festivals and stuff, they'll say, "This is our budget. Who can I get from your, you know?"
Seems like not the way to go about. Like,
Yeah, sometimes, and it's those shows usually don't do well. When they have who they want, those shows do much better, and it can, I've taken a couple $100 less at times because I'm like, I want to go see the city. I want to go. Like, I have a ton of fans there. I want to
yeah,
go,
or exposure. Like, it would be good exposure for me. Yeah.
and I've gotten offered more than my rate. So there's hit and miss, but yeah, it goes. Deposit usually is half up front within 3 days of signing the contract, um, and they usually take the 20% out of the deposit.
Okay.
So the agency will take their 20%, manager will take his 10%. So the deposit, I see, a couple $100 or whatever. But at show, it's either day of show or day after show. My bank account hits for the rest of it.
Are you like a 1099 to that, like to them, or is that even a thing? Like, I don't know.
I'm my own business. So Jaysyx is his own business. So I get something from Prism saying how much I've made, that year or whatever. Yeah, Jaysyx, like any artist, autocorrect, Excision, all of they're their own entity.
Got you. So you're like an independent contractor, for lack of a better term. Got you. Okay. Makes sense. Um, and then we also, briefly touched on this, but one of the things we like to talk about in the podcast also is career trajectory. I mean, it might be a little different for DJ, but as you were saying, hey, maybe I want to go into engineering, maybe I want to go, like, what are some, potential opportunities for you if you were like, hey, I don't want to be partying at 4 in the morning anymore.
Yeah, engineering. Engineering is probably the biggest thing to do, but at the same time, you're up all night doing that. You can, do sound booths. You can do, movies with, their soundboards. There's a lot of different avenues you can take music production to.
Yeah.
I have a buddy that just writes, weird off songs that end up getting played in movies.
Okay.
That's all he does. He makes these little, minute and a half songs or whatever. It's just a beat or whatever, and it's, comes in hard, and it's got all the, everybody's like, oh, and that's all he does. And he sends them to these movies, and they're like, yeah, we'll buy this one, or we'll buy this one.
That's cool.
Yeah. So some guys just sell beats to rappers. I have a buddy that probably makes 100 different hip hop beats a month, and he'll sell them for like $200 a pop.
Damn.
Yeah, two and sometimes more, depending on who you're selling it to. But he'll just you can make a living doing that. It's just you never know what you're gonna get. Um, and where I'm at, I can see I can look at my Spotify for artists and be like, okay, I'm doing better this year than I was last year. I'm still going up. I still have the potential. And there's gonna be a point in time where I don't want to party, but I don't know if there's gonna be a point in time where I don't want to DJ.
Okay. Nice.
Just it once you get that big crowd in front of you,
It's it's hard to let that go.
yeah, it's like your happy place.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. Um, if you were to be able to get in a time machine and go back to the first, that day when you're like, okay, we're going music, I'm doing this, we're doing that. Is there a piece of advice, knowing everything you know now, that you would give to your own self on your specific journey? So something, not necessarily that might not apply to everybody, but that would apply to you in your situation.
Hop on social media way earlier,
Okay.
and produce from the beginning.
Mhm.
I didn't really believe production was going to be such a big key until like 4 years down the road. So by the time I started producing, I had buddies that were already a couple years in, so I was playing catch up.
Gotcha.
But with that said, you can't compare yourself to other artists. So I have all these friends in this industry now, and we're all like there's 15 of us that are close as hell, and there are times where I catch myself comparing like, hey, his track's doing this good, why isn't mine?
Hmm.
But you can't, because you have everybody has different fans, you have different sounds. Like if you listen to a lot of my buddies, you know some of them are rhythm, which rhythm, you have these different off genres of dubstep. You got rhythm, you got dubstep, tear out, which lately I've been making a lot of tear out, trap, all this other stuff, and you can't do that. And I used to do that a lot. That why am I here when he's here? And you just can't.
You just got to do your own path, basically, and just let it go as it goes.
Yep.
Um, would you say that music producing is a talent or a skill? Like, could I learn to be a music producer, or is it like, hey, you already kind of have to have an ear for it, and then we can like hone it?
I definitely think you can hone it to an extent. If you don't have an ear for it, you'll hit a wall.
Okay.
Um, Having an ear for it definitely helps. But it's also, you can train your ears. I mean, there are times I sit in my car and I'm, staring at my dash, and my dad will look at me and be like, "What are you doing?" And I'm hearing a certain kick in the very background.
Trying to, yeah.
I'm like, okay, and then I'll think of that and try to remake that.
Like, how could I incorporate that into?
Yeah, and it's just little sounds, or hitting a pen off a table and trying to make that, you know, a bass punch, whatever it is. Um, so I definitely do think it is a talent, but it can be honed into a certain extent.
Okay. But for example, if me, I have no musical ability whatsoever. I can't hold a tune. I can't keep nothing. So it's like I'm gonna hit eventually a spot where it's like, hey, you gotta have something that you just don't get.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just like singing. I mean, I can't sing a lick, and I know I can't sing a lick, but I can auto-tune.
I was gonna say.
And I've done it; it doesn't sound good. So, um, like, I'm not gonna put myself in a song
Okay.
because I can't sing. So there's just sometimes, if you don't have it, you don't have it.
Yeah, but that's not necessarily a bad thing either. Is find your craft, find your skill, and pound it. Just boom, boom, boom. And there you go. Um, Before we kind of finish up here and wrap up, one of the reasons that I started the podcast and one of the the main pillars of the podcast is promoting small businesses, promoting, people that don't necessarily have the platforms, to get out there and do certain things. So having you on, I mean, thank you again. I extremely appreciate it. If you could take a moment to, let the people know where we can find you. We kind of did it at the beginning, but maybe a little bit more, I don't know, in depth, or if people skipped through the beginning, because hey, people do that, maybe they'll catch it here at the end.
Yeah, you can find me on all platforms at Jaysyx, Jaysyx. You can catch me hopefully in your city soon, because we're working on a 25 to 30 city tour, which may start off in my hometown.
That'd be awesome. That'd be so sick. I'd be there.
Yeah, I'm waiting on the for sure, because that it's a big show with a big artist. I just can't say anything about it yet.
Hey,
But that'll be in August if it does happen. And yeah, at J6. I have merch out. If you guys, it's all over my socials, and if you guys, hit me up, DM me, email me, all my stuff's on there. And yeah, I appreciate you having me.
thanks, man. Also hit up your promoters in your local city. If you guys check out Jordan's music and you're like, hey, I want to see Jordan, the only way he can get there is if somebody says, hey, we want, so hit up the people, go to your clubs, go to your people, will be like, hey, bring him in, I like his music.
Yeah, hit up your promoters and tell them to hit up Brian at prismtalentagency.com.
Bam. And so we're going to put all your links. We'll put your Instagram, we'll put, Spotify, whatever links you want, we'll throw them in our description. So if you guys, didn't have a chance to write down what Jordan just said, check out the description in the episode. You'll find out all the links there, and we can go from there.
Awesome.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you.
Okay. Now I got to figure out how to stop recording. Thank you, Jordan, for giving us those insights into the music industry. Now, before I let you guys go today, a couple quick reminders. Please make sure you're following us on all podcast platforms, YouTube, and all social media platforms at Jobology Podcast. We just started our TikTok, so check us out there too. And like we say to end every episode, make good choices.